You don't see now the energy is going to take. The Spurs played with so much more energy and scoring 138 points in Staples or the Crip or whatever we're calling it.
It was Staples then, yes.
And so you have so many things that don't work. Yes, and Perk and Jalen have spoken very forcefully to this. You can't go with injuries and COVID because everybody's been suffering. Their lineups have been decimated through that. Every team in the league. The pieces don't fit. They are too old. We looked at these things going into the season and said, okay, are we going to see them be able to play with enough energy? Is there enough youthfulness about them? Is there joy about the way they play? And the answer so far, and we're a third of the way through the season, is no.
Those of us who chronicle the sport don't want to believe in the concept of just turning on a light switch at some point. But, Jalen, maybe that's what they're banking on, that they will all get healthy and they will all be motivated and pulling on the rope in the same direction at the same time when we get to April. Is that possible?
It's going to be too late because they're going to be too low in the Western Conference standings. When you 4 or below, you're not getting to the Western Conference Finals with this Laker team. And it's about investment. I like to gauge success off a realistic expectation. So the Celtics and the Lakers both have 17 championships. There are other franchises, for example, like the Mavs, who have 1. And that means everything to that franchise. They invested in the LeBron championship that they won in the bubble by letting all of the young players go over the last couple of years.
That's right.
Julius Randle, Ingram, Ball, Caruso. When you're losing all of those young players, you're investing in an older roster. They got that 1 championship for LeBron.
You know what? I look at the little things. I look at the little things when it comes down to the Lakers. How they can't guard a pick and roll. How teams are still picking on Carmelo Anthony on the defensive end, trying to get him in isolation plays. How Russell Westbrook is still leaving his feet till this day to pass the ball and getting those unforced turnovers. Those are the things that I'm looking at. DeAndre Jordan in the drop coverage, letting the guy get behind him for a lob dunk. And I'm looking at this, and we're talking about a chemistry. We're talking about a veteran ball club that knows how to play the game of basketball. And so when I look at the Lakers, and I was a prisoner of the moment when this team was formed, and I said, oh, they got Melo, they got Braun, they got Russ, they got AD. I'm thinking about them in the past. So when I look at them, it's almost like, you know how they had those certain pretty girls in school and high school, but then when you see them in a class reunion 10 years down the line, they don't look look great no more. That's how the Lakers is right now. It's just right now, full of excuses.
The class reunion from the class of 2016 doesn't look quite as good as they did then. So, Stephen, you see the questions actually on our screen there. What is the Lakers' biggest regret? What do you think they regret?
The biggest regret was listening to LeBron James. And I appreciate Kendrick Perkins' analogy. What I would remind him, however, is that everybody can't be me. Okay, the bottom line is it's not just it's not just the ladies, but the men. We look worse too, except me, guys. Except me. I'm only playing. The point that I'm trying to make to y'all is this: at the end of the day, y'all, it's about listening to LeBron James. LeBron James is the star. You won a championship, and Russell Westbrook is not in a Los Angeles Lakers uniform if LeBron James doesn't want him there. Now, Russell Westbrook wanted to go there. And obviously he pushed and prodded LeBron to support that, which LeBron did, and convinced AD to do so as well. But this is about LeBron. It's not about Rob Pelinka. It's not about Jeannie Buss. It's about them listening to the star of their franchise, that basketball savant who's a 4-time champion and a 4-time league MVP, who said, hey, this is the direction that we need to go in. Now, in fairness to them, again, he's saying they haven't played together. I'm not going to buy it as an excuse either. But regardless of that, LeBron James has played in this league and has succeeded in this league on too high of a level for too long to just definitively write him off this early. What I will say is they look like hot garbage. And right now, if you had to hold anybody accountable, it's him. Because you could have stand pat, particularly since you won the championship. It bought you some time. And that's not what he did. They made their changes, and now they ruined the day they did.
The one player who has been on Christmas every single one of those days, Jalen, is LeBron James. And he's going to set some records today. He needs 13 points to break the record for most points scored on Christmas Day. But, Jalen, Is this the most disappointing team he has ever brought into this holiday?
I will say no, because you got to look back at some of those Cleveland Cavalier teams that he carried to the NBA Finals. When you really look deep into those rosters, you understand the greatness that became LeBron James. Now, this situation is probably the most disappointing because you have Anthony Davis on the roster, you have a Russell Westbrook on the roster, and when you say the names Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard, these are future Hall of Famers, you assume that they won't be struggling to be one of the top teams in their conference.
Well, they were a runaway favorite to win the NBA championship in 2017. The problem is that's a long time ago, Michael Wilbon. So now what of this group of Lakers?
They're disappointing. It's the most, Jalen's right, it's the most disappointing. Not the worst team, maybe. But you watch them now. I have now started watching the Lakers every single game to see how awful they will be so I can start texting like Burke and Elmer the other night to say, what are they doing? How can they be this bad? What are there, 7 Hall of Famers? I think Jalen mentioned them all except maybe Rondo, who I think is a Hall of Famer. Hall of Famers, and they can't get out of their own way. They gave up 138 points the other night to the Spurs, who are not a great offensive team, at home. So they've played all these home games, and now they have road games and the toughest schedule left in the league. And to me, it's done with the whole, they're going to get it together. No, they're not. And so this is the most disappointing. So I'll take that distinction that Jalen made. I think that's the right one.
What do you think, Stephen A?
I'll roll with that. I mean, listen, it's Christmas. It's Christmas, y'all. We trying to be really, really nice about it. Well, they look like hot garbage. I mean, that's what they are. I mean, listen, y'all. We up Christmas morning, okay? We got up, opened some Christmas gifts and all of that other stuff. We trying to bring ho, ho, ho to everybody. But damn it, they look like hot garbage. And I don't recall LeBron James teams playing on Christmas Day that look like hot garbage. I recall him having limited resources. I recall us looking at him and saying, okay, he's got to carry the day. I recall that. But we didn't look at this team and they were loaded and we say, what the hell is going on with them? We've never looked at a LeBron James team on Christmas Day, to my recollection, and had that kind of conversation. But that's what we're doing this morning, okay? So disappointing, yeah. We want to go that route. I'll flow with Jalen. I'll flow with Wilbon. But only because it's Christmas. Only because it's Christmas. Hot garbage is more apropos.
Go ahead, Big. Go ahead, Perk.
Well, I'm going to say they're pathetic. And I said this yesterday, and it's not just because of their performance on the court. It's because of the excuses after the losses. Like, I don't want to hear about chemistry problems. Every single team in the NBA is dealing with the same issues that the Lakers are dealing with, whether that's not having their full roster. I watched the Atlanta Hawks team the other night go into Philly and beat Philly without a lot of players, a lot of key players. I watched Kevin Durant, before he went into NBA protocol, take a group of young guys, go on a 3-game winning streak with some guys fresh out the G League. So when I hear a guy like LeBron James say, we haven't had our roster, you know what you have had? You have had 2 of your big 3 play in every single game this season. It's no excuse that they should be 1 game under 500.
In real trouble. And you see the graphic, or you did a moment ago, no NBA champion has ever been 500 or worse this late into a season.
Is it time to break up the big 3 in LA?
Yes, it is, Molly. Will it happen? Probably not. Anthony Davis is not going anywhere. He has a no-trade clause. We know LeBron James is not going anywhere. The person that they probably could move or should move is Russell Westbrook. I don't know if it's going to happen because of his contract. But here's the thing about the Lakers, right? They're full of excuses, Well, 1 minute is Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel been out. Fizdale been coaching. Now they're still losing. And here's the thing. LeBron, you my dog. I've been knowing you since the 7th grade. But that interview, that ain't it. That ain't it. For the simple fact that the whole league has been battling this whole situation for us, COVID protocols, injuries, or whatever the case may be. When I watch an Atlanta Hawk team off a back-to-back, fresh off a loss against the Magic, go into Philly without their superstar and get a big-time win, I said, you know what? Anybody could do it. So when you get beat by 28 by the Spurs, That's a problem. That don't have nothing to do with chemistry. Now, what LeBron James should have said was, hey, man, we got to do a better job of getting back after a made basket because teams are scoring on us. Russell Westbrook got to do a better job of not leaving his feet when he trying to pass the ball because he keep getting turnovers. Or how about Carmelo Anthony? Hey, man, they're picking on you and picking rolls every time you're down on the floor. They're calling you up and they're going at you defensively. You got to be better. Hey, DeAndre Jordan, when are you going to do the defensive coverage right? When you're in drop, quit letting the guy get behind you for lob dunks. That's the LeBron James that I want to hear in the interview talk and preach and call out his teammates and hold them accountable instead of saying things about chemistry issues when the entire NBA is going through it.
Woo. You are not wrong, Perk. And somewhere in my mind, I have allowed myself to believe that this is a leadership ploy on the part of LeBron, right? In terms of not dropping the hammer on what has been a very frustrating situation. You are absolutely right. The Lakers are not a solo team in terms of dealing with this issue. But when I look at this roster, yes, we had umpteen jokes in terms of the AARP group and how old they are. But I also have to give some room for the idea that these are all high basketball IQ guys who have the ability to put it together, right? So I'm waiting to see, can they get healthy? Do I have them coming out of the West even healthy? No. But I do think there is room, there's a little bit of room for what LeBron has said in terms of the continuity that's missing. Because remember, they got healthy late in the season last year, going into the playoffs, and then we know how that ended, right? And so there is something to be said for the chance to get right, just a little bit.
But Monica, you can't go from 2 nights ago, Molly, of getting beat by the Phoenix Suns by 20, walk into last night against the Spurs and get beat by 28.
Well, is this part of the veteran thing, though? Because you know veterans love to turn it on after Christmas.
We haven't seen at no point.
And so,
let me ask y'all a question. At any point of this season, have y'all watched the Lakers and said, oh, they do have an on switch? No,
you're right.
No,
I'm waiting for it.
But we know LeBron has an on switch, so that's why people are believing it because
he's been on, Molly.
Yeah.
You seen his last 9 games, but the Lakers hasn't. They've been horrible.
I am giving a little bit of holiday grace to the idea that when they can get on the floor consistently, including practice, it'll improve. I still don't got them coming out the West.
Here it is. I'm gonna say this: if the Lakers healthy, this roster that they have, that they assembled, Rob Pelinka, LeBron James, if they don't at least make it to the finals this year, they will be considered one of the biggest disappointments in NBA history.
Okay. Not to me, because I didn't think that group was going to get to the finals. But I feel you in the big
future Hall
picture.
of Famers.
But they
LeBron,
don't, Bert.
Anthony Davis, 28. He's at the peak of his
Davis
form.
is fragile, and I don't mean to knock his injury
They won a
history.
championship with him.
In the
He
bubble.
was putting up.
In the bubble.
It
The
don't
Knicks was
matter.
also rolling
It don't
in the
matter.
COVID
You
year.
heard people saying it felt like they was doing time.
So how far should this roster go?
I mean, they got to deal with it. Like, look, nobody's going to trade for Carmelo. Nobody's going to trade for Russ.
Yeah.
He's making too much money, so they have to deal with it. They got to figure things out. But again, if this team healthy doesn't make it to the finals, they will be one of the most disappointments in NBA history.